everybody. I'm Stacy.
And I'm her daughter, Mickey.
And welcome to KiddieNomics. That is us. We are starting a new KiddieNomics Friday. I had to do the horn. We have sound effects this year for KiddieNomics 2021. We are so excited to be back. We really did miss you guys for the month break that we had. So this is our second episode of KiddieNomics 2021 with our super amazingly fun guest, Mr. Tim Nash. We are happy to have him back on KiddieNomics. But before we get started, let me share my screen. 1 second. There we are. Okay, welcome to KiddieNomics. All right, so first of all, we would like to welcome all of the new kiddies that have joined KiddieNomics today. So if this is your first KiddieNomics, welcome. And of course, we'd like to thank all of the returning kiddies to KiddieNomics. Thank you so much for joining us week after week, learning everything you need to know from A to Z on financial literacy skills. We're super excited to have you. So let me get started with what KiddieNomics is all about. Like, why are you here? Right. KiddieNomics will help kids ages 8+ to develop a healthy relationship towards financial literacy, helping to start kids off on the right path to have a successful financial future. That's what we want for you. That's what I want for you. That's what she wants for me. So that's what we want for all you kiddies, is to make sure that you have the skill set to do whatever it is that you want to do and to help change the world, because we know that that's what you guys are going to do, right? So let's start with some housekeeping items. First off, every KiddieNomics webinar is recorded, right? So it's being recorded right now. And then I do post every single webinar on our KiddieNomics YouTube channel. So if you missed part of this webinar, if you joined late, or you wanted to rewind back because you missed something, don't worry. I post every KiddieNomics webinar on our YouTube channel, and this one will be posted by about 8 p.m. tonight. So that's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so you'll be able to rewatch this webinar and all of our other webinars that we've had for KiddieNomics, okay? Now, just to remind all the kiddies, we'd like to keep a very safe community here on KiddieNomics, right?
Yes.
Right? So we'd like to keep it very safe here. So to remind all kiddies that we cannot see or hear you, you of course can see and hear us. But in order for you to communicate with us, you will need to communicate through the chat box down below. Or maybe it's up top. I always say down below, but I think the chat box is actually up top. Or maybe it's to the side, actually. I'm not sure. So you will ask all of your questions in the chat box, and you will answer our questions in the chat box. We love to play games and quizzes and all of that. So watch out for that as the webinar goes along. Also, if you do raise your hand, which a lot of the kiddies do, is raise your hand. When you do raise your hand, please remember to type the question in the chat box, okay? So you can raise the hand, but I don't know what you want until you type the question into the chat box, okay? I do answer most of the questions. So if you have a question and you've seen that I haven't asked it to the presenter, please just type it again in the chat box, and I will get to it for sure, okay? Now, we would like to welcome back Mr. Tim Nash. Yay! Big KiddieNomics round of applause. Tim Nash is the founder of Good Investing, an investment planning firm with the focus of sustainable investing. His blog, The Sustainable Economist, has inspired thousands of Canadians to invest according to their values, with model portfolios to reflect different definitions of sustainable investing. Tim writes a bi-weekly column for the Toronto Star and is regularly featured in publications such as the CBC's The National, BNN, Bloomberg's Market Call, and the Globe and Mail. So we welcome back Mr. Tim Nash. He's going to talk to us again about stocks, and sustainable investing in stocks. So this is our two-part series. As I said last week, we started last year with talking about stocks, and we started this year with talking about stocks. So what does that tell you? Stocks is important. Investing is important, right? So that's why we do it. So take it away, Mr. Tim. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
All right.
There we go. Hi.
Perfect. So everyone can see me, and why don't I share my screen? Here we go.
Good.
Perfect. Everybody can see my screen?
Yes.
Looks good. Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. I had so much fun with everybody last week. And I learned a lot, even though I was the person presenting, just from all the great questions and all the great people. So, so happy to be back here and to talk a little bit more about good investing and what that means. So I do want to start with a little bit of a recap from last week, just to make sure that we're all on the same page, that we remember everything, and just maybe, some people weren't able to make it last week. That's okay. But a few things that we did talk about. So the first thing we talked about is why invest in stocks. And can anybody tell, can you write in the chat window, does anyone remember why it's a good idea to invest in stocks?
Why is it a good idea to invest into stocks? Let's see. Mickey has an answer. Go ahead, Mickey. What's your answer?
So you can own a piece of that company.
You can own a piece of the company, Mickey says. I'm going to put on Jeopardy music.
Sure.
All right. Who else? Let me see. Samuel says, I'll stop the Jeopardy music now. Samuel says, so you're not poor. Oh, Joy, you say you really can't hear? Okay, if you cannot hear, you're going to need to log off and then log back in and see if that fixes it. Okay? Alicia, hi, Alicia, welcome back. She says, because you earn money. Yay! Micah and Gay says, to make money while I sleep.
Yes!
Really love that answer. I'm going to give you the bomb. Hold on. Let me give you the bomb. Because that is a great answer. But Tim says our bomb doesn't sound right.
Sounds like somebody's breaking into your house.
It sounds like somebody's breaking into your house. But you were the bomb. Good job. Gabriel says it's basically free money.
Well.
Not really, but okay. We're going to talk about that. And let's see. Yep, that's it. Oh, to make more. Micah says also to make more.
That's it. This is about making money. And, that line, making money while you sleep, that's exactly what I said last week. So certainly someone was paying attention there. And that really that stocks are a way for us to be able to make money. That when we invest in a company, we do own part of that company. We own shares in that company, meaning that we share in that company's profit. And if they make money and they continue to grow, then the value of their stock goes up. And that allows us to buy low and sell high, which means that that's kind of how we make money with stocks. Now, obviously, there is some risk with stocks. We did talk a little bit about this last time, that there is the risk that a stock could go down, right? So you don't make money every time. It's not free money. We are taking some risk because there is the possibility that the company could fail or go bankrupt or just not be as successful as investors are hoping. And those are all things that might cause the value of our stocks to go down, right? So there is some risk here. And then one of the things we talked about, because there is risk involved, is the question, is diversification important? And I'll ask this to the chat. Does anyone, first of all, yes or no, is diversification important? Do we remember what diversification means? Maybe that's a good question to ask. That what do we mean by diversification?
What does diversification mean? Let's see.
Let's see if anybody knows the answer to this one.
Somebody should have the answer for diversification. Let me see. I'm going to put. Uh-oh. Let me see. Who's going to answer? Okay, let me see. Tulu says Yes, it's putting money into multiple stocks. Good job, Tulu.
I said that also.
Denise, uh, Denise says owning different stocks. And Egypt says ETF, which is a good answer because
Yeah.
ETFs are different stocks. Mutual funds, exchange traded funds. Good job, Egypt.
Amazing.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, so we want to spread it around. Diversification is really important so that we don't put all of our eggs in one basket, right? Because if that basket, we drop that basket, all of our eggs are gone. So what we want to do is we want to spread it around. And instead of investing in just one company, we want to invest in lots of different companies. And a really easy way to do this is that we talked last time about investment funds. And I think it might have been Egypt there that talked about mutual funds or exchange traded funds. Someone used that acronym ETF for exchange traded funds. That we looked at some of these last week to understand that you can buy one fund, and inside of that fund, there can be hundreds or even thousands of companies inside of those funds. So really that's what we spent most of our time talking about last time is really that, you know, it's a good idea to invest in stocks to be able to make money, that diversification is really important, and that one of the easiest ways for us to diversify our investments is by using these investment funds. And I talked about some different funds and their approaches that we can use that are still really broad with thousands of companies, but maybe get rid of some of the things we don't want to invest in, right? So maybe we can get rid of things like tobacco or weapons. If we don't want to invest in companies like that, then that's great. There are funds, there are these mutual funds and exchange traded funds that we can buy that don't include those things, which is really, really cool. So what I want to talk about today is, instead of sort of doing less evil or maybe getting rid of the bad stuff, I want to talk about green stocks. I want to talk about ways that we can invest that we're going to be able to feel good about. So there are a whole bunch of different ways to be able to invest in green stocks. And when it comes to green companies, these are going to be companies that are doing things that are still businesses. They're still trying to make money, but they're also trying to help the environment, to kind of make things a little bit better. Now, one of the problems, and I'm going to show you with this, but when it comes to green stocks, sometimes these are smaller companies. And so they do tend to be a little bit more volatile, meaning that it's a bit more of a roller coaster with the share price. They can go up and down. And so this is why diversification is very, very, very important. That instead of investing in one green stock, it's a good idea often to invest in a whole bunch of different ones. So this is where these ETFs, exchange traded funds, can be really, really cool. So what I want to do is I want to show you a few of my favorite green ETFs so we can look at them and see what's inside. You know, one of the things that people are really excited about right now is solar. So these are going to be companies that make solar panels and that create electricity from the sun. So does everyone know solar energy? Have you ever seen like a solar panel before? Maybe up on the roof of a house or a church? Maybe you've seen some solar panels installed?
Yes, the kids all say yes on live.
Fantastic. So they know what's up with solar energy. So it's really cool. You put out these panels and, you know, every time the sun shines, those panels produce electricity. And guess what? You can sell that electricity for money, right? Which is another way for us to be able to make money while we sleep. Well, I guess I'm assuming you're sleeping during the day, because we don't make money at night with solar panels. Now, inside of this, so this is the Invesco Solar ETF. Again, ETF is exchange traded fund. So this is a fund you're going to see with a bunch of solar companies inside. And this does trade on the stock exchange, just like a normal company would. And you'll notice that there is a ticker symbol. So again, this is like a code that a lot of stocks and ETFs have. And look at the ticker symbol for this one. This is TAN, T-A-N, because if you get it, it's a solar ETF. And so what does the sun give us? It gives us a tan. So they got very clever with this and made a little joke with their ticker symbol that I like. From there, what we can do is we can open up and see what's inside this ETF. So I'm going to click on the button that says portfolio. And when I scroll down here, I can see that these are companies from all over the world, that almost half of them are US companies. So these are companies that are in the US, but you can see that China is in here. So these are Chinese solar companies, and Spain and Germany and Norway, France, and here's Canada. So there are some Canadian solar companies in here. And then Japan, India, and Switzerland. So again, you can see diversification, that we're spreading our money around, not only with different solar companies, but also companies that are inside of different countries, which is usually a good idea. This is one way that we can diversify our investments. When we look at the companies that are in here, I want to view all of them because I want the whole list. And you can now see that there are a whole bunch of different solar companies in here. I'll just zoom in so that it's a little bit bigger. And you can see the names of all these companies. So Enphase Energy. Now, what's really cool is that these are all companies, right? And so we can Google these companies. Oops, that's something I'm looking at later. Oh, hold on, I messed up. I have to go back to here into Enphase, and then now let's see if I can actually paste it. There we go. Get it into Google. So this is solar power for homes. So this is a really cool company. You can see here Enphase Solar and Storage. So storage is batteries, maximum reliability. These are just like beautiful solar panels that people can put up on their house. Right? And this is the company that makes and installs these solar panels. And so this is the #1 company inside of this exchange traded fund. But there are a whole bunch of other companies. There's another company called Sunrun. So again, these are all companies that we can just Google them to be able to learn a little bit about. Look at this #1 residential home and battery. So again, probably look at these beautiful photos. Isn't this gorgeous? A nice sunset and solar panels on the roof of the garage. So maybe there's like an electric car in there. We're going to talk about electric cars a little bit later, but this way you could have solar panels and then with electric cars that are actually inside. So it's really cool when we look at this. There are lots and lots of companies in here. Solar Edge, Jinli Solar, First Solar, all of these are different solar energy companies. Canadian Solar, you can see here, is a solar panel company. But lots and lots and lots of different companies. Look at all of these, right? So this is going to be a way for us, if you want to invest in solar, if you think that solar is going to grow and that more people are going to be buying solar panels and putting them up on their homes, then this is a way for us to be able to invest in solar companies. But instead of picking just one solar company and sort of crossing our fingers and hoping that that's the company that makes it big, instead we can diversify by buying this solar fund that has a whole bunch of different solar companies in here. Does that make sense? I want to pause for a moment to see if there are any questions about this. Do people understand, do kids understand that this is a way for us to invest in solar in a way that's a little bit more diversified?
Did any of the kiddies have any questions? Madeline says, I understand. Godswill says, yes, he understands.
Yes.
Egypt, I understand as well.
Amazing.
Joel, I think you saying you understand. Question, how much does this stock cost?
Okay, so again, this is a fund. So this is an ETF, an exchange traded fund. And this one is in US dollars. So we talked a little bit last time that some stocks and ETFs are in Canadian, some are in US dollars. This one is pretty expensive. So this one costs, it looks like $106, right? So this one is on the higher side. And if I can show you some other ones, and if people want, there is actually one that just came out yesterday that is in Canadian dollars. So if people are in Canada and want to look at the Canadian dollar one, there is a new green energy ETF that I can show you. And I think that one's only $20 per share, and it's in Canadian dollars. So maybe let me show you the other couple, and then maybe I can end with the one that's in Canadian dollars that's a little more affordable.
That sounds good. Mr. Tim, we did have a question last week, I think by David, which I wasn't able to get to his question, but he also
That's okay.
wanted to know if you're in Germany, because he was from, I guess he's in Germany. He wanted to know, could he buy US dollars too? Because
Okay.
there, could he invest in companies in US dollars?
That's right. So you should be able to. He should be able to. It's a little bit hard because it depends. There are different platforms that you can use to be able to buy stocks and ETFs. These are usually offered by your bank. So I'm not sure what German bank David does his banking with, but they might offer an online investment platform. But most platforms offer their home country and the US. So, for example, here in Canada, we can buy things on the Canadian stock market and the US market. And my guess is that if he's in Germany, that he would be able to buy things on the German or probably on the European, because they're part of the Euro region. So he could probably buy European stocks, and those would be in the Euro currency. But that also, I'm pretty confident that he would be able to buy things on the US market, but I can't promise that. This is one of those questions where it really, like, it depends, and it depends on his bank, it depends on his platform. Most of them do offer that, but I can't guarantee that every single German platform will let you buy stocks on the US exchange. But, you know, if you really wanted to, I think I do know of a European clean energy ETF that I would be able to show him. So let's see how much time we have. And maybe if I can show the Canadian one, maybe I can also show the European one, which I know he would be able to buy.
Awesome.
Cool. Any other questions, or can I keep moving?
I think you can keep moving. I don't think the kids have any questions.
Let's go. So we talked about solar. So the next thing I want to show you is wind. So there's also a wind ETF. So instead of solar, if you wanted to invest in wind companies, this is the First Trust Global Wind Energy ETF. Look at the ticker symbol. This one is FAN, F-A-N, get it? Because it's wind turbines. They're like the giant. So you've got TAN for solar, you've got FAN for wind. Someone's having a fun time with these. And again, this is going to be a mix. I can see total number of holdings is 48. So there are 48 companies in here. And I'll just zoom in. Yeah, go ahead. Is there a question?
Madeline would like to know, what are wind companies? That's a good
Ooh, so wind companies. So just like we have solar panels that you can put on a roof or in a field that collect energy from the sun, wind turbines here, I bet one of these companies is going to have a nice, beautiful picture of a wind turbine on their website. So wind turbines, here we go, are out in the field. Have you ever seen a wind turbine before? They're giant. Like, this is obviously, but have you ever seen them out there? Yeah, perfect. So, you know, these are wind turbines. These are giant fans, like they're massive, right? And these are usually out in fields. So most of the places I've seen them are in farmers' fields. Although we are starting to put them out in the water. If anyone has ever been to the beach, and if you go to the water, you'll notice there's a lot of wind at the beach, right? It gets very windy there. So we've actually found a way to be able to put them out in the water, in the ocean or in a lake, to be able to pick up that wind. And as the wind blows across the water, it spins the wind turbine. And as those big fans turn, that creates electricity. And then there's going to be a wire at the base of the turbine that goes into the energy grid. And that's going to be connected to the grid so that when I turn on my lights, part of that is going to be electricity from these wind turbines.
Nice.
So these are really cool. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, we did have another question
Great.
from Micah. He also wants to know, could you show us some British ones too? Some British.
Okay. Yes. So the British ones, yes, that I think.
Micah, are you guys in the UK? Let me know.
Okay, I think Europe would cover. I think in Britain, even though they're leaving the European Union, I know there's a lot of drama in the UK right now with Europe, but I think you should be able to buy the European ones. So likely if you're in Germany or if you're in Britain, you should be able to buy the same one, which I can show you. So again, really it's, let me see if I can go back. Yeah, there we go. That, so this is going to be, 48 companies that all have a bunch of wind power. These are all companies from all over the world that are involved in wind energy. And again, this is a way for us to be able to buy and buy stock or invest in companies that generate electricity through wind, which is pretty darn cool. So I've got one more that I was planning to show you. This would be broad green energy. So these are a little more specific, like specifically solar, specifically wind. But if you remember, what do I think is really important? Diversification, right? So this is going to be an ETF that has a whole bunch. It's going to have some solar, it's going to have some wind, but it's also going to have a whole bunch of other companies in here as well. So this is the Van Eck Vectors Low Carbon Energy ETF. It also has a clever ticker symbol. This one is called SMOG, S-M-O-G, right? So you can see this is funny. And these are all in the US. I will show a Canadian one and a European one. And when we look at what's inside of this one, this is going to be even more diversified. So it is going to have companies like Vestas, which was in fan, right? This is wind turbines. And it's going to have companies like Enphase. Remember I showed you their website where this is solar companies. But it also has a lot of other things. Notice that the biggest company in here is Tesla. How many people have ever heard of Tesla? Does anybody want to be able to drive a Tesla as soon as they turn 16 years old, right? Wouldn't that be a great birthday present on your 16th birthday, a brand new Tesla?
Wouldn't it? Well,
right?
If they had great investing, maybe it's something that they could buy themselves.
Right? Yeah.
Oh,
Learn how to make money with stocks and you'll be able to buy yourself an electric car.
that would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Right? So Tesla people know about, but there's also another company, it's called NIO. NIO is a Chinese electric car company, right? I can show you their website where they have some very beautiful electric cars. Isn't that pretty? Right? So there are lots of different types. Yeah, Mickey, you're like, yeah, I'll take one of those, please. Thank you very much. And so, really there are a whole bunch of different companies that are doing electric cars and electric buses, but it's more than that, that when we look at the green energy space, there are all these different types of companies. There's so many. Samsung SDI, this is, maybe you've heard of Samsung before. Samsung, they make a lot of TVs and appliances. You might have heard of Samsung. This is a specific division that makes batteries. So this is part of Samsung, but they only make batteries, which is why they're in here. Cree is a company that makes these things called LED lights. Has anyone ever heard of LED lights before? Yeah, Mickey, you've heard of that?
I think all the kids love LED lights.
I know.
Now, right?
I'm such a fan. I love LEDs.
Yes, Samuel says yes. Godwill says yes. LG Style says I did. Joyce says yes.
So
everyone in my class has those.
Right? So LEDs are awesome. I'm a huge fan of LEDs. And so this is a company that makes LEDs. And if you think LEDs are cool and that more people are going to want to buy them, right? What I love, I mean, LEDs are so cool and so pretty, but they're also very energy efficient, meaning that it doesn't take a lot of electricity to power LED lights, which is why they're inside of this low carbon energy ETF. So these are sort of a few examples before I show the Canada and the US and the European, because I know that's important. I do just want to chart them for the kids so that you can see that, like, hey, these have done well. So what I can do is I can show you TAN. Remember, this is going to be the solar ETF, and I can show you the chart. And we can look at it over the last 5 years. And oh my goodness, look at how well it's done over the last year. It's done really well. So, you can see here from 2016, and I'm looking down here, sort of over here where my mouse is. When I hover over it, you can see it was about $22 for one share. But then you can see that starting in about 2019, it started to go up and it started doing really well. And then before COVID, it was at $40 a share. But then of course it crashed because everything crashed when COVID hit, and it went back down to $22 per share. But since that bottom, since COVID hit, you can see it's gone all the way up to $106 per share,
Wow.
right? Which is pretty darn good. Now, you have to be careful because remember, we want to buy low and sell high. So if you bought them in March, right, you bought low, but now we have to be a little bit careful buying it because we're buying it at such a higher level. And as a little bit of a cautionary tale with this one, I want to see if it'll let me do the max because this ETF started in 2008. And in 2008, at the height of it, this was trading for I think I saw $294 per share. And then it crashed. Because in 2008, we had one of the biggest crashes in the stock market's history. And you can see that solar stocks really lost a lot of money, right? And then even from 2011, it was trading at $88 per share, and then it went all the way down to about the low I'm seeing here about $13 per share. So this is the risk. This is the downside with stocks. This is what you have to be careful about, right? Because at that time, solar, it was still too new, and with the crash, so a lot of investors lost a lot of money with this, right? So you want to be careful. You don't want to invest more than, because we could have another crash and it could go down. And in this case, investors have had to wait a really long time for it to come back up. And it still, as well as it's done in the last year, it still hasn't gotten back up to where it was all the way back in 2008. So this is my cautionary tale. This is me sort of being the little angel on your shoulder saying that, stocks are a great way to make money, but you have to be careful. Don't invest more money than you're willing to lose because, sometimes these things can go down. From there, if we go back, let me go back to the 5-year chart, I think. Oops. So if I go back to the 5-year chart, here we go. Then I can also show you FAN because that's done pretty well, FAN. And I can make this light blue. And you can see it hasn't been as good as solar, but it has done very well for us. But if we're worried that solar is too high right now, maybe wind might be a bit more reasonable. And then from there, also, we looked at smog, and electric cars have done very, very well this year. And you can see that smog has also done very well. So, certainly if we invested in these last year, or if we invested in them during the crash, right, that we had in March, you could have made a lot of money. But I just want to be careful here to say that, right, that, we do want to know that stocks go up, but they can also come down. Does that make sense? So I'll show you very quickly the Canadian one, and then see if I can find the European one quickly before I do move on. So in terms of the new one that's in Canadian dollars, it's HCLN is the ticker symbol. And so this is the Harvest Clean Energy ETF. And so you can see here, they've, and this is in a portfolio of the 40 largest clean energy companies. So inside this one fund, there are 40 companies, and I can look it up on Yahoo, and I can see here, what is it, HCLN. Now, there's not going to be much of a history because, like I said, it only launched yesterday. So I'm not going to be able to get a chart. It's just a straight line across because there's nothing there. But you can see here, this is in Canadian dollars, CAD, and it trades for $19.30. I can see that it was down 70 cents today. So it's down 3.5%. So again, these things are going to go up and down. And, it's very normal for the stock market to go up and down, right? And so, but you can buy a share of this ETF for just $19.30. Yeah, there's a question. Perfect.
Yes. Mr. Tim, what do you suggest if you were starting to buy stocks or in an ETF? How many shares should you start off with buying? So
great question.
$19.30, which
yep.
is awesome. How many shares do you suggest a person to start off with buying?
That's a great question. And really what it depends on is the fees that you're paying in order to buy a stock or an ETF. So as I mentioned before, there are a bunch of these different platforms that many banks offer a platform. Now, unfortunately, some of them are more expensive and they charge $10 per trade. So if you're paying $10 every time you buy or sell, well, if you only buy one share, you're paying $10 to invest $19.30. That's not going to be worth it. You're getting ripped off, right? So you're probably going to want to invest, I would say, at least, a few $100s in order for that $10 commission to be worth it. That said, other platforms are more affordable. So for example, I manage my money with one called Questrade. I don't know if anyone has ever heard of Questrade before, but Questrade is a good one for Canadians because with Questrade, they do actually allow us to buy ETFs for free. So this means that there's no cost, there's no $10 commission. Now there is a commission, I think it's $5 to buy stocks. So if I wanted to buy shares in one company, then it would cost me $5. But this lets me buy ETFs for free, meaning that there's no cost, that I can start with as little as one ETF, even if it's $19.30, that's fine. I'm not paying anything to be able to buy it. Another one in Canada that does allow us to do it for free is called Wealthsimple. And so there's this thing called, it's actually Wealthsimple Trade is what it's called, that this lets us buy stocks and ETFs for free. You can see commission-free trading. So this is a really important point because I don't want you getting ripped off, that I don't want you to pay like a $5 or a $10 fee or commission if you're only investing, $100, right? But if you can use a platform that allows for free trading or commission-free stock trading, like Questrade or Wealthsimple, then at that point, you can invest as little or as much as you want. Does that make sense? Perfect.
Sounds good. That makes perfect sense.
So
one of the kids had a question. I think Tiffany had a question, but Tiffany, you got to type it in the chat box for me, please, okay? But Anne says, yep, she understands. And the kids are like, oh, that's such a ripoff.
I know, right? Don't get ETF. Okay, so I just want to see, shoot. I feel like if it's like CIUTS, I think is it. I just want to see here. No, I didn't mean cuts. European exchange. Let's see if I can find it here. Oh, it's just not giving me because it knows that I'm in Canada.
So it's not coming up.
So it's not coming. UCITS. Here it is. Hold on. UCITS, I think is the acronym. Oops. Here we go. Perfect. Okay. So I found one. This is going to be traded in Europe. There's this, so iShares, they're a global company and they offer these ETFs, these exchange traded funds in a whole bunch of different countries. And so I can see here that this one, now this is interesting because it's UCITS, but it does say it's in US dollars. That's interesting, but this should trade, let me see here. Yeah, in Ireland. So this is an ETF that trades in Ireland, which means that it will be available to European investors. And the ticker symbol for this one is INRG. This isn't a very clever ticker symbol. This one is kind of boring, but that this should be available to European investors. Now, let me just see if, if I can, I just want to see if there's one in euros. Euro, because I feel like there was. This one looks interesting. Here it is. I think this is the one that I was looking for. IQQH. So let me see if this is right. And can I get it? Here's blackrock.com. I think this is going to be it. Let me see if I'm right. Oh,
While
no.
you're searching, Mr. Tim, just 1 second. Kids, let's all focus on Mr. Tim. I'm reading your chats in the chat box. Okay, so let's all focus on Mr. Tim right now, okay?
It's okay. It's all good. I'll do my best to be exciting. I can't find off the top of my head. I can't find one that's in European, but I know they exist. So if I had a few more minutes, I'm sure I could find them on Google. But it's pretty cool that this is a way to be able to invest in clean energy stocks in Europe. So there are ways to do it. One way that you might do it is if you want to do a Google search in your home country, because I'm in Canada, so Google is going to give me all of the Canada and the US listings. But if you want to search for clean energy ETF, then you might be able to find some ETFs that are clean energy that are in your home country. Hopefully that helps you. I'm sorry for the European viewers that I didn't have this specific thing for you. Okay, cool. So I think we know about green stocks. Everyone feels comfortable with that. Hopefully they're awesome. So what I want to do now is to spend a few minutes to talk to you about bonds. So does anyone know what a bond is? Has anyone ever heard this term before?
Have you heard about bonds? Well, we did discuss bonds last year, early last year. So that was one of our KiddieNomics webinars. Scott Roberts. So if you did miss that one, you can rewind, go back to our KiddieNomics YouTube channel and check out our bonds with Mr. Scott Roberts. But I'm sure Mr. Tim is going to tell us what are bonds.
Okay, so a bond, instead of a stock where you own a share in the company, bonds are, we are loaning money to companies and governments. So a bond is like a loan, it's debt. So we are loaning money to companies and organizations and governments, and that the way we make money with bonds is through an interest rate. So basically to loan money, they're going to have to pay us an interest rate every single month or every single year. And then at the end of the term, we're going to get that initial loan back. Okay, so it's a different type of investing. This does tend to be a little bit safer than stocks, where stocks go up and down and every day they go up and down. Bonds are much more steady. I kind of joke that stocks are the rabbit in the race, whereas bonds are the turtle in the race, very slow and steady, sort of much more consistent. So what I want to do is show you a couple of cool bonds. Okay, yeah, oh, we got a question?
Yes, so the kids are talking about, what, are we lending money to the government?
Yeah.
Don't we have tax money for that?
Yeah, so taxes you pay, taxes are not a loan. When you pay taxes, that money's gone,
yeah,
right?
So we want to know, why are we lending money to the government in a form of a bond?
Sure, so because governments often spend more money than they make, okay? So just like a business, a government earns money through taxes, but then they spend money on schools and on roads and on hospitals and on all these wonderful things that the government provides for us, right? Now, the problem is that sometimes they spend more money than they make. And so that's what we call a government has a deficit, where they're spending more money than they're actually taking in. And this year is a really good example of this. Because COVID happened, a lot of people have lost their jobs or are unable to work right now. Like, how many people know someone that isn't working as much as they did last year? Because right now we're in a pandemic, right? So a lot of people, that means people aren't earning as much money. That means people aren't paying as much money in taxes. At the same time, governments are spending a lot more money this year, right? Because they've had to take the schools all online, right? So now that's going to cost money. That hospitals, right? And we're spending for vaccinations now. We want everyone to get their vaccine. That's going to cost a lot more money. And that people need more help than they did last year. And so governments are stepping in and are often providing a lot more help this year during a pandemic. But this means that the government is spending a lot more money than they're making. So if you're spending more money than you're earning, guess where all that extra money has to come from? Debt. And it's the same way that if you go to university, right? Going to university costs money. you might be spending more money than you're making, because if you're a student in university, you're probably not making that much money. So you're going into debt to go to school, and that's okay. You're making an investment. You know that by going to school and by going to university, you might take on some student debt, but you're going to make more money in the future, so you can pay that back, right? So it's a very normal thing for there to be debt. And in this case, governments often do require more money. And so the way they do that is that they sell bonds. And as investors, we can buy these bonds, which means we're loaning money to the government, which means that we're going to collect interest payment every single year on that money that we've loaned to the government. How are we doing there?
Perfect.
Awesome. So what I want to show you is, rather than government bonds, I want to show you some cooler, like, impact bonds. And so the first thing I want to show you are solar bonds. So this is a really cool organization. Now, this is just in Canada and actually just in Ontario, but there might be local options like this wherever you live. So I want to explain to you this model, knowing that, there likely is going to be an opportunity to do solar bonds in Germany or in the UK or wherever you happen to live. So this is really cool. An organization called SolarShare. And they offer these solar bonds. Now, they are sold out right now, so we can't buy them right now, but you can see when they were offering. This would be a 5-year bond. So your money is going to be locked in for 5 years, but you're going to earn 4% per year, right? Which is not too bad. And the minimum investment is $1,000. So the model is very simple. I'm going to loan them $1,000 to build solar farms. They're going to build, and I'm going to show you these solar projects in a minute. They're going to pay me 4% of $1,000. Does anyone know that math? What's 4% of $1,000?
Let's wait and see. I'll put on our Jeopardy music. What's 4% of $1,000? $4,000.
4,000.
No.
$1,000.
Oh, I thought we were doing.
That's more.
Okay. All right. Let me see. Denise says 40.
40 bucks.
Gabriel says 40. Ann says 250. A little bit off.
A little bit off. 250 would be a little generous.
40. Samuel 40. Nicole says 400. Madeline 300. Egypt says 40. LG Style says 40. Micah says 40. Good job.
It's 40. So, I can show you here on my calculator, if I do $1,000 times 0.04, which is 4%, equals $40. So basically, if I invest $1,000, I'm then going to get $40 every single year for 5 years, right? So if I do it times 5 years, that means I'm going to get $200. And then at the end of 5 years, I'm going to get my $1,000 back. Okay. Now, what's really cool about these solar bonds is that this goes directly into solar projects. So I can actually show you all the projects that they have. And again, this is very local to me. This is in Ontario, and they own all kinds of different solar projects. Look at all of these solar farms, right? These are all different projects. Now, my favorite one, I'm going to show you my favorite one, which is the Noodle Factory, because I don't know if you knew this, but Brampton, Ontario is manufactures various foam items, including most of the colorful pool noodles available in Canada. So those swimming pool noodles?
Oh.
I know, it's not food. You got hungry, didn't you, Mickey?
Yes.
You haven't had dinner yet. I'm sorry. This is not the Noodle Factory restaurant. These are swimming pool noodles, but you can see that they have all these beautiful solar panels on the top of their roof, right? And I can actually go in real time and we can monitor. Now, it is dark here. It's nighttime, very early in Canada. The sun goes down, so they're at 0% right now. But over the last 30 days, these solar panels have generated 11,000 kilowatt hours of electricity, which is worth $6,300. And they've removed 2,700 pounds of CO2 emissions, which is really, really cool. So basically what we're doing is we're loaning money to SolarShare so that they can build this solar farm. They're going to create electricity and sell it to the grid and earn money. And they're going to use that money to pay us interest on the loan. And then at the end of 5 years, we get our full $1,000 back. So this is another way for us to be able to have a positive impact in the world, where we are loaning money to create these solar farms, right? And we are making money while adding solar electricity to the world. Isn't that cool? So, this is one of my favorite things. There are other types of bonds. There's one more I'm going to show you, and then this is the last thing, which is a community bond. Now, a community bond is a really cool model. Now, this is for nonprofits. So instead of a lot of the companies we've been talking about are for-profits, this is a nonprofit called Sketch. And Sketch is based here in my hometown of Toronto, Canada. And you can see here, it's radical art of young people transforming lives and communities. That Sketch is a nonprofit that offers arts programming to homeless and marginalized youth. So there are young people in the world, there are youth who are homeless and who don't have the opportunities, that I have, and that a lot of them end up here in Toronto. And so what Sketch does is they teach these marginalized and homeless youth about arts. So they offer all kinds of different programming, ceramic arts, so how to make pots, culinary arts, so if you want to become a chef and how to eat well, media arts, so digital art, movement art, so dance and yoga, music art, so they have recording studios and instruments, right, where they teach these kids really valuable skills, and they create a community for homeless youth to be able to get good food and come together and make connections and really, create those opportunities. So what they're doing is they've created a community bond to help them buy their art studios. So this is a nonprofit that is trying to buy their building in downtown Toronto. But how does a nonprofit buy a building? They'd use a community bond. So the way this works, they have different terms, but the one that I want to highlight here is the Series D, because the minimum investment is only $500. Your money is locked in for 3 years, and you earn 3% per year. Okay. So again, the return on it, it's not that high. It's only 3% per year. But what we're doing is we're having a really positive impact, because we're helping this nonprofit buy the building so that they know that this is going to be their home forever, to make sure that they can continue to help homeless youth, not just this year, but every year into the future. So this is a way for us to still make money. We're still earning 3% per year, but we're also having a really positive impact. And again, this is a very local thing. This is my hometown of Toronto, Canada. But what I'm hoping is that where you live, there are nonprofits that are doing the same thing, that are offering these community bonds so that you can invest in your community and have a positive impact while you're also earning a return on your investment and making money while you sleep.
That's super cool.
Isn't that super cool?
That is so amazing.
So that's it for me. I'm happy to answer questions. If you want to learn more about investing in green stocks or investing in green bonds or community bonds, I'm happy to answer questions. But otherwise, it's such a pleasure to be here. Your questions and answers have been amazing. If you want to learn more about what I do, you can go to my YouTube channel. And my channel is called Good Investing. And you can just search for it on YouTube, or we can have a link there. And if you are interested in learning how to actually do this, now, again, we talked about this last week, but you might need an adult, or if you are an adult, you do have to be 18 years old to open up an online account. So you might, but if you're interested, or, you can get your parents interested, I am offering an online course right now where, I'm going to be teaching people how to actually set this stuff up and how to actually start investing and making money while you sleep, but also doing it in a way that's in line with your values, where you can invest in the world that you want to grow up in.
That's amazing. Thank you, Mr. Tim.
My pleasure.
Awesome. Olivia says, this is awesome. Never heard of community bonds. So she definitely learned something new. All the other kitties say thank you. And some of them said they're going to go to YouTube. Thank you. Adonis says thank you. So thank you, Mr. Tim. You did amazing. We learned so much. I learned a lot. So thank you very much. We will wrap up in the next couple of minutes. So hang on, everybody.
I love minutes.
All right, let's go. All right, so let's wrap up. Now, I ask this question every single KiddieNomics webinar because it's really important for you guys to understand how important it is that you guys are learning financial literacy skills. So my question is, what would happen if kids became more financially literate? And our answer is real change that impacts the world. And we really do believe that. You learning financial literacy skills will take you wherever it is that you want to go. And maybe you guys will be the ones that cure cancer or, you know, or help out with the environment or whatever it is on your journey and path. But financial literacy, the skills that you're going to learn is only going to help enhance your journey and give you a very, very successful path forward. So that's what we believe. And the other thing that I always call you guys is tiny financial literacy ambassadors. And what is an ambassador? An ambassador is an authorized messenger or representative. And I authorize you, we authorize you to be messengers of financial literacy. You represent us in your family, to your friends, and your community at large. Because you guys know probably a lot more than even adults now by participating in KiddieNomics. So you guys can say, no, I know this. I understand more about stocks, and you can teach your friends and your family and your parents and your community and say, no, I know that this is what you can do and what you can't do necessarily. And so I authorize you guys to be the ambassadors that you are of financial literacy and talk to your friends and family, because you talking to other people about KiddieNomics and what you learn on KiddieNomics is only going to help them in their lives also, right?
Yeah.
Right? So we want all the ambassadors out there, because what we say is knowledge is our superpower. So share it, right? Okay. Now let's wrap up. Oh, I should have said, well, this is our upcoming schedule, but we are already in 2021. So next week we are going to, well, the first 2 weeks with Mr. Tim, and we talked about sustainable investing. So that was amazing. And then next week is going to be with Miss Gloria. Now, we were talking about taxes. And I know a few of you kids were like, oh, I don't want to know about taxes, but next week we're going to talk about taxes. Yay! I have a sound effect for claps, but apparently it doesn't work very well, so I won't use it.
No, I want to hear it.
I'll use it next week. But we're going to talk about taxes, because taxes is really vitally important. The more that you understand about taxes, the better it will help you as you go along. So we're going to talk about income taxes next week, because we are in income tax season here in Canada. So we are going to talk about one of the pillars of financial literacy, which is taxes. And then the following week, we're going to have another fun person on, Mr. Bruce Sellery. He is going to talk to you guys about conscious spending. What does that mean? So basically, he's going to talk to you kiddies about how to get a yes from your parents when you want something. I was like, this is a great topic for the kids.
I have one.
Hold on. Right? So he's going to talk to you guys about how to get a yes, but in a but why you should maybe want to buy something or not buy something. But he's going to give you the skill set on that. So that will be amazing. Did you have a question, Mickey?
No, I didn't have a question. I had something to say.
Okay.
Okay, so when you want to get something from your parents, just make sure you get the one of the most expensive things ever, because when they're not around you, they spend all their money on expensive things.
Oh, okay. We do? I didn't know that. Apparently we do. Not in this household, we budget. We budget.
She's the most spending person in this house.
Yes, because I have to spend on our household budgets. We have to buy things.
No, you buy clothes.
All right, now let's wrap up. So, as I said, we want to hear from you. I want to know what you guys want to learn about. So, can you guys message me? Send me an email. You can message us on any of our social media platforms, which is Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. Yes, we have TikTok, which there are no videos, so don't get me started. And just use the hashtag KiddieNomics or Ask KiddieNomics. This video, as I said in the very beginning, we record every single KiddieNomics webinar. So this webinar will be posted and posted to our KiddieNomics YouTube channel by 8 p.m. tonight, which is Eastern Standard Time. So if you have missed anything, you can always rewind it back and watch it back. But otherwise than that, we will see you next week. Thank you again, Mr. Tim. Thank you to all the kiddies that joined us this week. You guys were amazing, right? And so we'll see you next week, right? You're going to be here next week for taxes, no matter what. You got to learn about taxes. So we will talk about taxes next week. We'll see you next week, and bye.